successful gym. And I said, I'm so happy about that. I said, if you have such a successful gym, I said, you let people that are physically handicapped train and you equipped for that. No, we don't do that. I said, well, I believe that everyone has the right to be fit. So if you're physically handicapped, you have the right to be fit and you have the right to join a gym and to work out. I said, do you let people in and give special classes for Special Olympians, for people that have intellectual disabilities? I used to be the trainer for not only the United States, but the world in powerlifting for Special Olympians. So I said, do you have any facilities? Do you let people come in? No, not really, we don't cater to that. I said, well, then you can't call yourself a successful gym, because then you're only calling yourself a successful gym financially. You maybe make a lot of money with the gym. But in our sport, everyone has the right to be fit. And we have to make sure that everyone has the ability to go to the gym and to work out and to get the food supplements and all of that stuff. So we have to think about that, because not everyone is, perfectly developed. So we have to give everyone a chance. And so I have seen firsthand how challenging it is for those people that had in Special Olympics to just get a job. I saw how challenging it is for them to get an apartment, to get insurance, to go and join a club. That's why my mother-in-law, Eunice Kennedy Shriver, started Special Olympics back in the 60s, so that those people that are intellectually challenged also have a place where they can do sports. And so to me, this is what this is about. Our sport has to be about equality. And the great thing about it is that the message of training is equality. Because if you go into a gym, the 200 pounds on the bench press is going to be 200 pounds for everybody. Think about that. It doesn't matter if you're black or white, if you're woman or man, if you're young or if you're old, if you're rich or if you're poor. If 200 pounds, it's going to be 200 pounds. There's no break. And on top of it, you can't go and send someone else to the gym to train for you. Right? Like all the guys do, the executives, they're going to call the flower shop and they say to the secretary, hey, get me some flowers for my wife for Valentine. But that's easy. But to sit down and to paint flowers, to make a nice card for your sweetheart, that's what I do. I'm a romantic person. I paint the cards, and I paint the Christmas cards, I paint the Easter cards. I'm not a good painter, may I remind you, but I at least try, right? And they love it. The kids love it when I do it for them. My ex-wife loved it when I did it for her. My girlfriend loves it when I do it for her. Everyone loves it. So I mean, it's a good thing to do. So this is why I say the weights. When you go into a gym, it's for everyone. It's the same weight. So the equality is right there. That's what I love about this sport. Is everyone has to do it.
Yeah, I never thought we'd be getting a round of applause for you being a romantic today, but this is great.
I always let a little bit of information about myself. I don't train legs. I bicycle every day.
That's it.
And the reason for it is because, 10 years ago I was told I should get knee replacements. From all the skiing and from running and the squatting and the deadlifting and the stunts in the movies and all that stuff. So I destroyed my knees and my back. And then you laugh. But I mean, just think about that. In Germany, the one I said, I'll be back. Now I say, oh, my back. I mean, yeah, it's not funny, I'm telling you.
The thing is, I tell you what, some of the stunts you've done are definitely dangerous. I mean, what is the worst injury you sustained on set doing all these incredible stunts?
Well, there's a lot of stunts that stunt people do, especially if it's a stunt that...
Can you get a stunt double that even is the same size as you? I'm sure there aren't many of them.
Well, now, yes, it's easy. Because now I'm not that big anymore. But it's a very good question, because I tell you, when I did Conan the Barbarian, I was like, the body was exposed almost at all times. So they couldn't find a stunt guy that had muscles, or a muscle guy that could do stunts. So I ended up with like 90%, 95% of it doing myself.
Okay.
Yeah, there was one scene, no, it was two scenes actually, that a stunt person did. And the rest of it I did myself, and that never happened again, because then later on in the 80s, the stunt people started really becoming more and more muscular, and they started training, and then it was easier to find stunt people that were doubling me. But in Conan the Barbarian, I mean, all of the stuff and the horses, I mean, I tell you, I fell off horses during the sword fights. I was trampled by horses, and I was getting into accidents left and right. The first day, I had stitches right away on the set. They were stitching up my back because this wolf was attacking me, climbing up these rocks. And they let the wolf go too early, and he jumped me and pulled me off, and I fell into a rose bush, into a rock. And all of a sudden I had to be stitched up, and that rose thorns all over my body and stuff like this. And the director came to me, John Milius, he came to me and he said, Arnold, just so you know, pain is temporary, but the movie will be permanent. So that was his way of kind of calming me down and making me feel good. But I mean, was just the first day. It was like this all the time during the shooting of Conan. But now, very, very good stunt guys that are muscular and that are in shape.
Is there King Conan coming? Are you going to be returning to that role?
Yes, it was. That is true, and the movie wouldn't have worked if I would have done it 5 years after the first Conan, because the whole idea of King Conan is that he has been, for 40 years or so, the king, and he's older now, and he's not anymore in the shape that he was in his heyday, and now people are trying to take him out. And he's the king, he gets a little bit complacent, and he's tired of the job, and he wants to move on. And so there will be a lot of conflicts. When you look at a movie like Unforgiven with Clint Eastwood, it will be along the lines of that. And it will be with, just extraordinary battles. And so, interesting enough that all of a sudden, the film studios feel like that just to do a sequel or to do a copy of one of my movies doesn't work that well. They've tried it with Predator, they've tried it with Total Recall, and they've tried it with The Running Man now, and all of those films. And they feel like that doesn't work. We cannot replace Schnitzel. And so now they're coming to me after all these years, and they say, look, we want to do Commando #2, and we want to do another Predator with you, and we already hired the writer and the director for Conan, King Conan. Next year you're gonna go and film King Conan. We will be ready, the script will be written, it will be prepped, and everything will be ready to go. So next year we're going to do King Conan. So that is a reality now. And I'm delighted about it, because for the last 10 years, I have been saying we should do King Conan. And we should really get a great, great script written, that someone that really understands Robert E. Howard, that understands the artwork of Frank Frazetta, and to really get into it and to continue on. And I want to have John Milius, the director of Conan 1, be maybe the producer of that. And so it will be really fantastic. And I think there's a huge audience out there that wants to see that.
I think so. It'd be great, won't it? Conan was obviously one of.
It started slow. The whole process was very slow, because I was starting to do TV movies first with Lucille Ball. And Art Carney, Happy Anniversary and Goodbye. And then I was doing. I know that from bodybuilding, have to imagine that here I was this 15-year-old kid and they said, I want to go to America and I want to be a bodybuilding champion. Yeah, of course everyone in Austria, especially my parents, thought that I was mentally ill. You know, my mother, when she saw me having pictures hung up on a wall above my bed, you know, of all of those muscle men and boxers and all the stuff that, all the people that I admired, you know, I wanted to look up there and get motivated. So she had the doctor, our house doctor. You know, in the old days you had house doctors that came to your house. She had the house doctor come to our house and she told him about what she's concerned about. I said, look at this. I mean, my son has above his bed naked man hanging there. All his friends have, you know, girls hanging above the bed, if they have anything hanging above but he has naked man, they're all just men. And the doctor luckily was smart enough to say, no, he's at the age now where the testosterone is kicking in, it's becoming a man, and this is his man that he idolizes and all that stuff. And I mean, she was so relieved. I mean, she was crying to the doctor saying, oh my God, what happened to my son? Oh God, I thought that he's going to go this way now. You know, all these concerns that she had. So imagine, I grew up with that. Everyone was like kind of suspicious about what is bodybuilding. So I said those things like 1,000 times a day, and the zinc is made out of zinc. He said this one is the zinc with an S, one is a vibrating S, zinc, and then there's a Z. So I mean, I didn't quite understand it in the beginning, but eventually you get with the program and you do all that stuff, because English is kind of a weird thing, you know, like I'm doing this scene, this action scene, and I'm saying, I'm going to kill you with this knife. And the director comes to me and says, what the fuck did you say? Knife? He says, who is doing your speech classes? He says, there's no knife. It's a knife. This is a knife. So he says, you don't understand it. You don't pronounce the K. I said, okay. All right, let's do it again. Action, Arnold. I'm gonna go and kill you with this knife. So cut. He says, it's kill you with the knife. I said, you said I shouldn't say the K. So this is how it goes, right? I mean, it's like total chaos. And so this is the kind of stuff that I went through in the beginning to really get with the program. But I mean, I did it. And then, like I said, Lucille Ball called me one day and she asked me to be in her show. I don't have a favorite. It's just, I have to say that none of them, you know, were planned to be famous one-liners. No, I'll be back was just, we were arguing on the set about I'll be back because Jim Lormer said, Jim Cameron, they said that I should say I'll be back. And I said, well, why don't I just say I will be back? It's more like machine-like. And he says, no, just say I'll be back. I shoot it 10 different ways if you want, but let me just say I'll be back. And so that's what we did. That, and then someone after the movie came up to me and said, can you say this line that you said in the movie, I'll be back? And I said, I'll be back. And this guy looked at me kind of like I was nuts. No, I want you to say it the way you said it in the movie. And he said, oh, okay, I'll be back. And so, I said, yeah, that's so good. Oh my God. And he ran off to another one of his friends. He says, he said the line exactly like in a movie. So this when I realized, wait a minute, what was so special about this line? And then other people came up to me, and then, I mean, the rest is history. It became the most used and most famous movie line of all times.
How many?
And so then you know, other lines came about, but there was more like the way I pronounced it rather than just the line. You know, it's like when I was in Commander, I was singing a guy in Predator. I was singing a guy with a knife in the chest, with a knife in the chest, and they said, "Stick around." So that became a line then. And then, and President Hander said, "Get to the chopper!"
We all wanted to hear that.
That became the line. And then, "Hasta la vista, baby." And so that became a line. So it was like, "Put the cookie down." So all of those kind of things, but it's the way I pronounce it. It's not a tumor. In the movie I said tumor with a D. It's not a tumor. It's not a tumor at all. And so the kids laughed. And then the director said, "I'm going to keep that in because it makes everyone laugh. It makes the kids laugh, so maybe the people laugh too," and they did. So it's just the way you pronounce things sometimes. It's what makes it then kind of like a usable line and how people then use it. Now I ride around with the bicycle in Santa Monica. When I go to the gym and the workout, the people scream from across the street, "Get to the chopper!" Or someone says, "Hasta la vista, baby!" "I'll be back." So I hear all these movie lines as I'm riding around with the bike. So I never ever thought that it would happen. So you never know. But I'm happy that these lines became that famous, and the movies became that famous, and those movies were really very, very successful movies.
They were, and one of the films which actually, if you saw...
I was not born in the United States, so therefore the Constitution says that you can't. And I'm not going to complain about it because, everything that I have been able to accomplish in my life is because of America. And so I'm not going to complain about the only thing that I can't do, which is run for president. I'm not going to complain about that. And we have so much great talent in America right now. So anyway, but the bottom line is I was happy with the governorship. And but I tell you, as soon as I said, even to my wife, that I want to run for governor, she says, "Oh, don't be crazy. This will never work." And my friends immediately said, "No, they're going to eat your life." You know how the politicians are. They're going to eat your life, and they're going to paint you as this horrible person, says you shouldn't even get into it, and all of that stuff. But you know something? I had the balls to do it. I jumped in there, announced it at the Tonight Show, and 2 months later, I was the governor of the state of California.
Very good. 2 terms as well.
The bottom line is what it really means is, and I'm not trying to show off, but I mean, I think one thing I've proven is anything is possible. I mean, I'm literally a farm boy from Austria that has grown up around farms. And my father was a police officer, my mother was just the homekeeper, was the Hausfrau. And I come out under this kind of circumstance, it's quite normal. It's very strict upbringing and all that stuff. But it just shows you that anything is possible if you have a vision, if you have a very clear goal. And this is what I was gifted with, is that I always had a very clear goal. And the reason why I'm saying that this is very important is because so many people are unhappy with what they do. In America, one time, just by coincidence, I was just checking out a study on how many people like their jobs, and that whatever they do. And I found out that 78% of the people hate their job. I mean, think about that. 78% of the people hate their job. But how is that fun? To get up in the morning and to go to the job. And, but you know, it doesn't matter how I feel the day or how I felt afterwards, because I couldn't do the movies. I mean, I was booked. I used to do 2 movies a year, you know, and mixed with Newfoundland. And he gets also really big. So she brought that dog down, and that dog got really big. So one weighs 170 pounds and the other one weighs 150 pounds. And the Liam Burger. And then she called and she says, "I have 5 pigs." And then I don't need 5 pigs, so I'm trying to get rid of 2 of them. You want a pig? I said, sure, why not? So we had the pig coming down. And the pig, of course, loves coming into the house and loves to eat and sleep in the house and all of that. Just feels like one of the dogs. So now I have this whole zoo, with the 3 dogs, and I have the miniature pony and miniature donkey, and I have the pig and all this stuff. And they all roam around in the kitchen in the morning when I come downstairs at 6 in the morning, and I feed them every morning at 6 in the morning in the kitchen, and they all just somehow get along, even though they snap at each other every so often. But I mean, they get along, and it is very, very entertaining to watch that when they feed the animals and they do their thing. I mean, that's just wonderful. So it's just another fun thing that I discovered that is really very entertaining.
Sounds like there is never a quiet